you're stuck with me for another session, which actually builds upon this, though. And it really, you know, it's been touched on, but the importance of and value of the human element to ATM has never been so apparent. And so, as we talked about in a previous session, organizational resilience is a key topic. And if we dig down a bit deeper, the resilience of operational personnel, their mental health and stress management, and management of change are just some of the topics that need to continue to be in the forefront. Among the things, the many things this pandemic has uncovered is the gradual shift from ATC to ATM will happen much more quickly than any of us thought. During this transition, safety has to remain a key focus. And so this session will discuss many of the human performance aspects CANSO members are managing and offer unique insights from some of the top human factors professionals in the ATM industry. And so I'm happy to introduce our next set of speakers. Guadalupe Cortez Abrero, she is the Human Performance Workgroup Chair for CANSO. And she's currently leading the Enthusiastic Intelligent Human Factors team at Inari. They share a proactive approach to capturing and understanding human factors and human performance in the context of complex systems. And she brings that same energy and spirit to the Human Performance Management Workgroup. I think it's noteworthy at the same time, while she's doing all of this, she is still an operational ATCO, and she has Tower, TMA, and en route experience. She is accredited as a human factors specialist by the European Association for Aviation Psychology and holds a degree in linguistics and postgraduate degrees in air transport management and human factors in aviation. Also, Miguel Caparros Ruiz, he is the vice chair of the Human Performance Management Workgroup, and he is the head of air traffic control training at Flight Training Europe, the ATC Pilot and Training Academy located in Jerez de la Frontera, Spain. I hope I got that right. And since 2011, he has been responsible for training design projects, TRM courses, and selection of instructors and trainees. He also worked as an ATCO for 14 years and holds a degree in education and a master's degree in psychoeducation. So I'm really, really honored to have these two professionals speak to us. And because Guadalupe is actually working an operational shift, we decided that we would record this session and then answer questions at the end. So if CANSO Events can queue up the video, we'll start from there.
Well, it's a great pleasure to be representing the Human Performance Management Working Group today at this forum. And I would like to introduce the group and the work we're doing, and to make some big points about the work we're doing. So the working group, this working group is formed by a wide range of professionals with the perfect balance between academic and operational background. And I think it's a really important point because we intend to keep our feet on the ground on these. I would like to thank every single member of the group for their commitment and work. It is a real challenge to lead a group full of initiative, intelligence, and talent. And I would like to share with you part of the work we have been doing since we were appointed as leaders of these working groups. The first thing is that we have been revising the terms of references, then accordingly to the moment we're living and to the needs that human performance need to be covered now with the present scenario. And actually, I would like to share with you that the main points of our speech here today conforms CANSO position in human performance, and they are also part of a formal document produced by the group that will be released and distributed very shortly. But we thought this would be a very good opportunity to discuss basic but essential points about human performance in the present air navigation scenario. So let's talk about this. We are living, well, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, 2020, aviation is currently facing an unprecedented crisis worldwide. That's something that we all know. And with the impacts of the pandemic to almost every major industry demonstrated that our global economic systems are extremely vulnerable and sensitive to a disruption of human performance. And the threshold of this disruption at which operations began to shut down is very small. We witnessed that. However, in the air traffic management sector, the airspace never had to be closed due to shortcoming on ANSP side, proving that despite the uncertainty and impact within our existing systems, human performance remained balanced, designed, and crucible, able to adjust. And I want to highlight this: balanced, designed, and able to adjust, because we need to consider human performance at a system level. We cannot consider this separately. Ultimately, this crisis has shown that to deliver safe, efficient, and effective air traffic management service, it is essential that frontline personnel operate at an optimal level of performance, because the ATM system is interactive and complex and operating in a continually changing environment. So let's talk about what this new normality is, because we still don't know. We need to adjust and meet the new challenges imposed by this new normality, and we need to do it almost every day. Sometimes we are not sure what to expect yet. So high-level concepts like adaptability, resilience, change management, but must be considered, but in a practical way. So we need to put emphasis on the human being into the system. So the need has become clear. Human performance must be considered as one of the pillars facilitating safety and must be #1 priority, so that air traffic management can remain a viable and sustainable industry. This need that I'm mentioning has been re-emphasized with the announcement from the US Senate to reform aviation with a greater focus on human factors. Has been supported by other global efforts and institutions such the European Human Dimensions Working Group, ICAO, and the European Union Aviation Safety Agency. So let's be practical. That's what we started saying. Let's talk about lessons learned. Well, as a group, our first task has been to identify several recommendations and as point of concern for human performance as a result of the disrupted global disruption, the global network in 2020. So the first message we have is we recommend that all ANSPs take following practical steps for the short term, but also to the future, to ensure things like, I'm going to give you some examples. Change management principles should be taken into consideration. And we're talking about the importance of social dialogue, about the importance of building trust, and pushing the development of a shared vision and cooperative culture. We cannot do safety without frontline personnel. And then we need to make sure also that we have enough staff. Well, that's something that maybe Miguel can comment on because he's specialist on training. Miguel, what do you think about selection and training? Would you like to comment?
So thank you, Guadalupe. One of the challenges we are facing from the training point of view, it's just to have enough people ready and validated just to perform the job when it's necessary. So years ago, it was difficult to produce, to create new air traffic controllers because there is a lack of knowledge about how is the job outside of the industry. So, for example, if you want to be a pilot, it's a well-known job, but to be a traffic controller is not well-known. So we have been making recruitment in university just to let people know how is the job, just to increase the interest. But just to have one person validating the unit could take about 3 years. From you start from the selection, it could take about six months, and after you have to make the course, the training, it will take between 1.5 or even 2 years, and after you have to be validated in the unit, that will be between 6 months and 1 year, as average. So it's quite a long period of time to have people validated and ready to perform the job in the units. So one of the things we are facing right now is all the training has been freeze. So the courses has been cancelled, and we need to see in the future. We need to identify that when the traffic comes up again, the demand on air traffic controllers will be high in a short period of time. But the period of time we need to have people available just to perform the job, it used to take about an average of 3 years. So this is the reason why it's quite important to maintain the level of recruitment and selection and training of air traffic controllers, not only in ab initio, also in continuous training.
Okay, thank you, Miguel, for that. And something I would like to add also is not also about, we have talked about change management in a practical way and social dialogue. You've mentioned selection. We need to have the right number of people working once the industry is ready again. We need to consider how long it takes to train ab initio air traffic controllers. But then I would like to comment also to make sure that we highlight two important issues as skill acquisition, how this is gonna be now, how our new air traffic controllers, or even experienced air traffic controllers who are validating in new units, how they are gonna get their skills when we don't have so much traffic right now. Then another issue which is interesting is the difference between face-to-face versus remote training, something that is going to affect. And I also would like to comment on the skill degradation, because there are a lot of skills that we need to use in our work, like for example, when you need to be fast when you are managing holding patterns, and then in TMA sectors and approach sectors that you need to be super fast. Now we haven't practiced for a while, so and I'm thinking it could be the same for pilots, and to be very tuned when operating and following the procedures. The standard procedures were meant to be used in a very dense air traffic airspace, and now some of them we're adjusting because they make no sense. So there's a lot of changes, and that they are going to affect the way we operate. And I would like also highlight medical fitness, because this is important. Fatigue management, that should be closely monitored. Then we need to consider also greater flexibility for rostering and networking, because rostering systems return to a state of sustainable normalcy, need to also consider protection of staff while offering them the chance to plan their lives with more confidence. And then also in a very, very practical way, we need to make sure that our supervisors are made aware of the risk of human performance of sudden return of traffic. Where possible, traffic should be increased gradually, but who knows how this is going to be. So let's consider that, and let's put some mitigation measures in place to make sure that we're ready for that. And additionally, I would like to comment that there's operational evidence collected from some air navigation service providers in Europe who are actually measuring air traffic controllers' human performance during and post-traffic reduction periods, and they are reporting the following conclusions, and which we think as a group that is really important. Let me tell you. Number one is that with severely reduced traffic, workload was very low, but monotony was an issue among other human performance concerns, but especially in many smaller airport towers, something that is important to consider. Then skills, as I mentioned before, skills used in high intensity operations, such as holding, ground traffic management, were not continuously used and may require refresher training. Uncertainty. we all have that in our present life, but our uncertainty around working conditions, personal safety, personal risk to air traffic controls has not gone away. So this presents a level of concern which could influence very much air traffic controller performance. Let's talk also about trust. Trust in operations, networks, and other external factors which have suffered and could present a safety risk. So air navigation service providers should be aware of the effect of non-technical skills, such as confidence, resilience on individual, but also on team human performance, which is really important. So our ANSPs, where possible, should ensure that supervisors, training instructors, support staff are aware of the vulnerabilities of the staff and provide the necessary resources for team resource management, for example, because evidence shows that teams with a higher shared situational awareness from positive, proactive communication are more resilient and higher performing. But we all know that, but we can prove that with numbers. And finally, fatigue and stress will be more unpredictable because of the uncertainty and disruption to rostering. So I would like to close our intervention with a closing statement. And very strong on this is that effective human performance is required to deliver good air traffic management. It's necessary. So if we want to keep the system safe, efficient, and effective, adaptability and flexibility both are very necessary, because we must not forget that it is the people in the system that provide this resilience. So basically, this is what the Council Human Performance Management team think, very roughly and then very shortly. This is our position about main issues that we are still working on the work program for the next 2 years. And now, what do you think? What are your expectations? And how can this council group contribute to the ATM community? This is your forum. Your voice matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guadalupe and Miguel. And I do believe that we have them coming online. We may have a technical glitch here real quick, but we'll try to get that squared away. Guadalupe and Miguel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Shane. Nice to see you again.
I do. I don't know if you hear me, guys.
Well, we hear you loud and clear, both of you. So while we're working through the technical issues, I really appreciate both of you joining us. Guadalupe, thanks for being able to get off position long enough to have this conversation. And so I'm sorry that we can't see each other, but at least we can hear each other's voice. So one of the things that's come up, it came up in the last session, it came up in your talk about this properly training ab initio ADCOs to get them ready to meet the demands of a job that has changed now due to traffic levels. And so Miguel, I would give to you that question, since that is your area of expertise, and how you're dealing with that right now.
Thank you, Shane. As Urs, the guy from Skyguide, mentioned before, now we are facing new challenges with the pandemic. So one of the things we have been doing, for instance, here at FT has been just using virtual training. And virtual training for delivering ab initio theory is working well. We have, for instance, just to give you the picture, we have delivered virtual in the academy for a total of 200 trainees. Most of them belongs to the pilot training division, but definitely the virtual training is a way to substitute the face-to-face training. It is something not only in aviation. For instance, my son is doing the first course in the University of Engineering, and he has only attended about 5% of the classes. So not only in aviation, even in other industries or in other universities, colleges, they are using what is the virtual training. Regardless, there are some areas that need to be provided face-to-face. For instance, when we start with the lockdown, all the courses that were doing the theory, we substitute for virtual, but the courses that were making the practical training was stopped because there was no way just to deliver in an appropriate way the simulation part of the course, the practical part on distance. So we have to make it always face-to-face with one instructor side by side. But for instance, one of the lessons learned is we have been facing in the last 6 months. The virtual training is a way just to substitute what is the theory training when we have no means to do it face-to-face.
Thank you very much for that. I wanted to touch back on something that you brought up, Guadalupe, on skill acquisition. And we discussed this a little bit in the previous session as well with the traffic levels that have reduced. I know that you and I had a conversation about some of the things that you're experiencing in your current position versus your previous position from an operational perspective. And so what are some of the measures that can help with this skill acquisition issue that many are dealing with?
Well, hi Shane, hi everyone. I'm proud to say that I couldn't connect because I was doing my operational job, which is something that many cannot say right now because of the hard situation. So thank you for the opportunity. And about a skill acquisition, definitely I think what it works really well is simulator training. I think because we could adjust the level of traffic, the situation, and we can provoke the acquisition of specific patterns, which are completely necessary in the mental model of the air traffic controller. Because, for example, when you learn, it's not about the formal practices that you learn, the standard operational procedures and everything, but it's also about the nuances of the job. It's about the hotspots. It's about a lot of strategies that experienced controllers in that unit already know they work for specific sectors and situations. And they are like a library in their head, in their long-term memory, part of the brain. And when you're in training, they will show this to you in a practical way. The problem right now is that we don't have enough traffic to see the variety of situations and of patterns that experienced controllers know, but new controllers in that position, in that unit, or complete ab initio controllers cannot relate to because they don't see the traffic in a practical way. So that is the highest risk, I think, is how well or how good are we going to get that knowledge when we don't practice at all. And when we do it in a different scenario, which is simulator training, which I think is fantastic. It's better than nothing, but it's always not exactly the same because you cannot control all the variables of the simulator as well as in real life. So that's my perspective on this.
Yeah, interesting. So we got a really good question that kind of feeds into this from the audience, and it's really about that some ANSPs will not hire operational people for some time because they have enough to perform the job right now. But this is going to create a gap. You know, if we look in the future, we're going to have this gap of people ready to go, if you will. So how do we close this gap, both in the short term and the long term? Miguel, I'll go with you first, and then I'll come to you, Guadalupe.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Shane. The traffic, we are all pretty sure that the traffic peak will come sooner or later. We all hope it will be sooner. As you know, Kiefer, the pharmacy has released, it could be a vaccine just released soon, and the stock and exchange just yesterday increased, you know, for instance, in Spain, almost at 10%. So what is going to happen when the traffic peak is going quickly high? Unless we have the people ready to make the job, we will not be able to face the new situation. So my experience in that is I remember in 2012 the traffic was medium, it was not high, so there was no recruitment of and selection of air traffic controllers. And what happened 5 years later? There was not enough personnel to make the job. So everybody was in a hurry just to make courses, just to create air traffic controllers, just to put it into positions. So my experience in the last 10 years is unless we keep a decent number of people ready to make the job, when the peak of the traffic comes up, and when it comes quickly, we will not be able to face the new situation. So the recommendation would be just to keep a level of training, recruitment, and selection of staff just to face the peak of traffic that we all hope will be soon.
Okay, thank you, Miguel. So Guadalupe, your perspective on this?
Well, my perspective is that the key is to find the right balance. It's about balance between the present situation and future needs. And of course, you need to have plans implemented for that. You need to revise everything, but we still need to think about the future. And balance for me is the key also between when considering health safety and operational safety. Because we need the flexibility in the ATM domain, but at the same time, we need to provide our controllers the safety they need, and also to make sure we give a good service and safe service and everything. So for me, the right, the word here is balance, is finding the balance between the present situation, budgets, problems for a lot of ANSPs at a national level, and also be ready for the future. Sometimes it's difficult to think both, but we cannot forget. That's it's obvious, but it's balance. But for me, it's finding the balance.
Very good. And so we got about 2 minutes here before we go to break. I want to ask something because we've talked about on-site simulators, and I know Guadalupe, you brought this up that simulators are good. They don't capture everything because they're not. You can't always know exactly what's going on 100% of the time in real life traffic. My question to you is more about, we've seen an emergence of virtual training platforms for ANSPs that don't have the capital or the access to virtual training simulators. Just wanted to get your thoughts about that, 30 seconds or less on, what you're seeing from that or what you know about that. So Miguel, we'll start with you on the virtual platforms that other ANSPs are using. Go ahead.
I think the simulation is going to change in the next 2-3 years. As you know, most of the company are making all in cloud, so putting all the simulation in the cloud, so you can go from one position from one place to another, from one country to another, and just make the same simulation you make in your facilities, just to do it in other place. So at the end, the simulation replicate what we expected in the real life. But in the real life, there are other issues like pressure, stress, how do you sleep last night? So simulation is to simulate, but the real operation is really the good point. Is how you make it in the real world. So the simulation can cover partially what you need to be trained, but at the end, it's very important to be updated in the operational position, just in the daily work. It is said that just to take the experience, you need 10,000 hours of practice. It's like a rule of thumb, and it's quite interesting because this experiment was done for musicians, for violins. But it is not said that to keep you updated, you need to train or to repeat the same action 4 hours a day. It's not only 10,000 hours in your life, it's 4 hours a day.
Okay, thank you, Miguel. Guadalupe, real quick, we're a little bit over on time, but 30 seconds or less on that.
Okay, 30 seconds or less. I think there's some specific issues from the job that cannot be replicated virtually, like team coordination, like interaction with your supervisor. You don't always all the time do that through your headset. Sometimes you stand up, you coordinate, and you move, for example. So team coordination, I'm not sure about that virtually. I don't know, say it cannot be done, but I'm saying it's difficult. And also these other issues about replicating the exact scenario and environment, like the screen, the actual working position, and everything. As Miguel said, issues like fatigue, stress, motivation, they cannot be replicated. So any virtual training is better than no actual training. How Fidelity is interacting with that, I'm not sure.
No, this is interesting, and I wish we had more time. I really think that there are several avenues we could go down this way. I know that the Human Performance Management Work Group is very engaged in a lot of these aspects and trying to tackle these for CANSO members. So I look forward to the future. I think that, like you said, human performance is one of the pillars of safety and operations, and we really have to maintain that human element. So I would like to thank you for participating. Both of you are really a joy to work with. Guadalupe, I appreciate you making the time to get off position and make it happen. Thank you, Miguel, for your valuable feedback. And with that, I'll close this session.